By the close of the 18th century, this new nation was already experiencing growing pains, with most of its population crammed along the eastern seaboard. In 1803, the United States government bought all of the land claimed by France, which encompassed a big chunk of what is now the country's midsection. The Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the country at the time, flinging wide the gates of westward expansion. In the central United States, most of the population gravitated to one of the country's lifelines.
It was concentrated along the Mississippi River or at places where pioneers or the Indians felt it was a good place to live. They would come in seasonally, hunt the area, then go to their towns that were in northeastern Mississippi with the goods that they hunted from this area and settle down for the wintertime. But in terms of permanent settlements in this area, they were very far and few between.
In 1811, the United States of America was only 35 years old. Our fourth president, James Madison, was in office, and just about everything west of the Mississippi River was a vast, unexplored wilderness. Along the mighty Mississippi, there existed only a handful of settlements. In the Missouri Territory, the towns of St. Louis and St. Genevieve, which were founded by French settlers, and the village of New Madrid, which lay on the western bank of the river as it crooked north and back south.
New Madrid had about 200 people in it, give or take, the town itself. The pioneers themselves were a very scattered, disparate group of people in terms of from all nationalities. The French, the Spanish, the Americans, immigrants into the United States, all of them with different cultures, different ways of looking at the frontier, and different ways of dealing with the frontier at the time.
Downriver from these settlements lay the towns of Natchez, Mississippi, and New Orleans, which was already almost 100 years old. The city of Memphis wasn't even a speck on the map at that point, only a Spanish-built fort on the bluff overlooking the river.
Basically, there was a trading post with the Chickasaws, there was Fort Pickering itself, and a settlement of scattered people along the bluffs because of the advantage of being above the flood level.
Even before this country's history was written by the white man, the natives were well acquainted with the lifeblood that flowed down its rivers.
Of course, the Mississippi River Valley is probably one of the heaviest populated areas in the United States in prehistory, just because of the water and the fish and the game, the trees and everything.
The land was very rich. There were good spots to make settlements and farms. You had the river to haul your goods down the Mississippi. You also, as New Madrid as a stopping point, could sell goods to people coming ashore looking for provisions as they were going down the river. So New Madrid was a good place to live.
As the 19th century dawned, Mississippi River traffic was becoming heavier as swaths of wilderness were swept away by civilization.
So you had canoes, dugout, tree stumps, rafts, flatboats, all wooden boats, no steel hulls or anything.
Flatboats were made out of lumber milled along the Ohio River or along the Cumberland River or any of the tributaries. They would be filled with goods for a one-way trip down the river to New Orleans.
For the simple folk who populated the Mississippi River Valley, life on the frontier was quiet, for the most part, uneventful, bucolic. That is, until one dark night that would literally shake the country's middle right down to its foundation. It was early morning on December 16th, witching hour some would call it, about 2 a.m., when the first violent tremor struck close to the New Madrid area, startling those on land.
We were visited by a violent shock of an earthquake, accompanied by a very awful noise resembling loud but distant thunder, but more hoarse and vibrating, which was followed in a few minutes by the complete saturation of the atmosphere with sulfurous vapor, causing total darkness.
And on the water,
we were affrighted with the appearance of a dreadful rapid or falls in the river just below us. We were so far in the suck that it was impossible now to land. All hope of surviving was now lost, and certain destruction appeared to await us.
It was the first salvo in a series of earthquakes that would shake the central and eastern U.S. for the next 6 months.
In the night, I was awakened by a most tremendous noise, accompanied by an agitation of the boat so violent that it appeared in danger of upsetting.
Everywhere there was noise like thunder, and the ground was shaking the trees down, and the air was thick with something like smoke. There was much lightning. We believed we must surely die.